He's gone tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order here for Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, Baldwin City Council. First thing we're going to do is approve the agenda, if I might. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? Do I have an approval?
Move to approve the agenda?
Second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda approved. Let's go back down now to the consent agenda, to the minutes from 3/17 of 2026. Do everyone agree to the minutes as they are transcribed for 3/17/2026? Everyone agree?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All together? Okay, I'm sorry, that's all together. That's a scheduled claims list, the Chamber third Friday, and Baker University Choir. So everyone's clear. The consent agenda consisted of the minutes from 3/17 of 2026, scheduled claims list, and Chamber third Friday, and Baker University Choir, which they all agreed to. Council agreed, correct?
I moved we approve the consent agenda.
There we go.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Going to move to the public comment section. We ask that if you want to make a comment, approach the podium. Feel free to make your comments. Make sure that you give your name and your address. So anyone want to,
It's things not on the,
I'm sorry?
not on the agenda or any.
Yeah, I would think they would know that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, anything on the agenda? Thank you.
Not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda. Thank you. I'm still learning, people. Bear with me, okay? So we're going to get there. So if I didn't have Amber and everybody around, I'd probably be out in the parking lot wandering around still. So anyone, any comments or anything? None? Going once, going twice, going three times? I take it that's a no. Then what we're going to do is move on to special reports or presentation, Proclamation Arbor Day. Roger, would you care to say anything?
Thank you very much. Roger Boyd, 510 3rd Street, Baldwin. I wanted to give you a little update on the tree board. You don't hear about us too often. The tree board was started in 2002. We currently have 5 members. I don't think any of them are still right here, but myself, Dr. Cal Sink, Chris Hamill, Eric Bailey, and Wendy Southard. We have several functions that we carry out every year. One is to have an Arbor Day celebration at BSIC. We plant 4 trees with the 5th grade class. It's an educational process as well as finding earthworms and getting to celebrate that. Several other things. May 2nd, it's not always the same weekend, but May 2nd this year, we have a tree giveaway. We usually give away 85 to 100 trees, and we ask for a goodwill donation to purchase more trees. So another function is we buy about 125 bare root saplings each year, pot those up, grow those for a year, and that's what we give away the next year. Then the last function we have is to apply for Tree City USA celebration, which we usually do that in November or December, and that should be coming out sometime in the next couple of weeks, and that's about it.
Hey, Roger, just so you know, we have a proclamation from the city of Baldwin City, Kansas, and I'm going to kind of read through it. It says, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation, in the world, and whereas trees reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees wherever they are planted are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And the city of Baldwin City has recognized as a tree city, or has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now, therefore, I, Gerald Cullenber, Mayor of the City of Baldwin City, Kansas, with the support of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, everyone make note of this date, April 24, 2026 is Arbor Day in the City of Baldwin City. I call upon all residents of the Baldwin City to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees, woodlands, and further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed, Gerald Cullenber, Mayor, 7 April 2026. Roger, would you like to come up and get this? There you go, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Hey, Roger, before you leave, I don't know who's more of a living legend in this town, the trees themselves or you. I hear your name everywhere. Do you know Roger Boyd? Well, I know who he is. I'm sorry, sir?
His dad started it.
Thank you, sir. All right, done with that. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the point of the evening that everybody's shown up for to try to see what we can get resolved with that.
Yep, I remain recused.
Okay, thank you, sir. And let me cover that for just a second. I know we've had some question about recusal and whether or not a person has to leave a building once they recuse themselves from the dais up here as council. And let me preface it with this. In all the council sessions I have been involved in, taken part in, when someone recuses themselves on the council, they do one of two things. They either sit at the dais and say nothing when it comes to vote, or they get up and move out to the audience. I know there was some question about, well, you know, really that person should leave the building. And I want to let you know, as a precedent, the City of Baldwin City has never, ever done that. And for whatever reason, it became a concern the last council session. Well, my practice from this point forward is just to do just exactly what we have been doing in the past, what the precedent has been. The gentleman has recused himself. He does not have a vote. End of topic. So with that being said, Nikki, I'm going to let you lead. Go ahead.
Jerry, just so you're aware, we also can't recuse people by kicking them out of the building because this is a public meeting.
Okay.
That person's still a member of the public, even if they have recused and stepped down. They're just not an active voting member.
Okay.
So we
you
can't
for
kick
clarification.
someone out.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, let's move on. Nikki, would you care to come up and say something, kind of get us started? If I can call you Nikki, hopefully.
That is my name, yes.
I know, but you know, I just want to be sure. I don't know how formal you want to be.
Do I need to say my name and address? Okay. Well, I suppose just start saying thank you. Everyone who's up there did reach out to me and answered my email, and I got to talk it through. Like I said in my Facebook post today, I learned a lot from these conversations. I hope you guys learned a lot from the conversations as well, and I hope we can come up with an agreement that will make the city and the bullpen work together as a partnership again.
That's it. You don't want to say anything else, or?
I mean, would you like me to read
No,
the
I just-
email? I mean, okay, I'll keep going. I sent you each a proposal that I would like you to consider. Let me pull it up real quick. Unless one of you guys has it handy real quick.
I do.
I remember what it was. So my proposal to the city, if the city is adamant about us absorbing the property tax, then my proposal is that we could lower the base rent to $700 year one, increasing it at a moderate reasonable rate at 3% with a 5-year lease term, and I would absorb the property taxes.
Okay.
That would put me still above what I'm paying right now, but a more reasonable rate for us to grow.
You still looking for a 5-year lease?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Council, discussion?
Nikki, on that, and I'm sorry I didn't put this in an email when I responded to you. Would that include your proposal? Are you wanting to also, it said property taxes, but we also had like maintenance in the last one that we proposed at the city council. What's your stance on that?
I thought we agreed on that on the last city council meeting. So I currently maintain the building itself.
Right.
Everything except for the major,
Yes.
yes. So HVAC, roof, foundation, below plumbing, I believe. You know, if the toilet breaks, I'm
Right.
gonna fix it.
That was the clarification that I was, having Jessica make, is just we make sure that flooding is also involved. If something happens and there's a flood gets caused, that you're not on the hook for that, so.
And I'm still fine with that. I mean, I've taken care of the building for 5 years. I don't think the city's ever stepped in to do anything,
Yeah.
except for that window thing with the guy.
What was, okay. All right, I just wanted to clarify, make sure, since it wasn't in there, but I couldn't remember if we had gone over that previously and agreed upon it, so, all right, yeah, thank you.
I think we definitely need to offer public comment on this topic before we have council discussion. And, if we have questions, Nikki certainly might pull you back up,
Okay.
unless you have more you want to put out there right now.
No, I gave you guys everything that I was interested in.
Thank you.
Issue's been raised, public comments, do I have any? Can you step up to the podium, please? For one, can't hear.
Jennifer Johanning, 105 Dearborn Street here in Baldwin. My husband was raised here. This is my now adopted hometown where we've raised our son, choosing to make our lives here. Not only that, I made a vow back in 2012 that I would not only live in this town, but work in this town as well, starting with the Kansas Bell Dinner Train and through all of our ups and downs with that. However, I continue to maintain that vow, and I've chosen to put my time, my effort, my money, my hard work into a community-owned, locally owned, a single mom-owned bar. Not only that, Nikki also employs complete local individuals here in our town. If it has come to pass that the bullpen is no longer able to be, pardon me, I'm going through pneumonia. If it is made to pass that the bullpen has to close, all of us will be out of a job. Not only that, we provide a getting safer place for our students here in town as well. We know the alternatives. Would we rather they go spend their money in Lawrence or in Ottawa? We're all about hometown, keeping it local. I would really hope the city council would agree to that as well. That is what our purpose here is, what my understanding in the town that I have grown to love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen.
Would anyone else care to comment? Taking that's a no, council?
Wait, you have somebody there?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's,
Hi, I'm Josie Flory. I am a commercial property owner in Baldwin, and I just wanted to share that for our tenants, we do charge triple net, meaning we charge them a base rent, and then we also charge another monthly fee that covers the insurance, maintenance, and property taxes. So that is a common practice here in Baldwin. And I think it's really awesome how many people have showed up to support the bullpen, and I support them too, and I hope that you're able to come to a resolution and find a lease agreement that benefits both the city and the bullpen. But I want to make sure that we also keep our perspective on other businesses in Baldwin and how we are respecting them and seeing this through their viewpoint. In my opinion, it would not be fair to other businesses in Baldwin that also have very loving patrons and that we love very much, and we want to show our respect to them, to set an artificially low rent level or not pass through the cost of the property tax to one particular business, because this is a for-profit business that competes with other businesses in Baldwin that have overhead that include property tax, whether that be passed through in triple net or just built into the base rent when the lease is designed. That's for every other business that's not owned by a government. That's going to be part of their overhead. And so to create a almost false situation where they're paying less than maybe the average business in Baldwin really puts the other businesses at a disadvantage, and it almost creates a subsidy situation where we're saying we support the bullpen by doing this, and yet that takes away, that puts those other businesses in a situation where they have more overhead and more expenses, and maybe their business is hurt because they're trying to compete with a business that has an artificially lower overhead. So I just want to make sure you're thinking of everyone in Baldwin when you're making your decision here, and also thinking about if the city absorbs the cost of the property taxes, what that means for citizens. That's coming out of their pocket, out of their tax dollars that they're paying towards the city. So we're asking then the citizens to pay for the property tax of a for-profit business, you know, that's a drinking establishment. So I just want to make sure we have all those thoughts in mind and try to keep the emotions out of our decision and make an objective decision that is fair to everyone involved and shows our love and respect to all businesses and people in the city, and not just the bullpen. And that does not mean that we don't care about the bullpen. We can make those decisions and still care about the bullpen as well as caring for everyone else. So that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki?
Well, on that note, I know you guys already know this, but the town doesn't. I'm going to read what I sent to each of you regarding rent and base rent in our area. So I did talk to other business owners, and one of them is 711 High Street. The square footage of the bullpen is 2,080 square feet. The square footage of 711 High Street is 3,710 square feet. This landlord charges $1,200 a month. They also increase it by 3%, and the owner pays the property taxes on that building. And if you're not sure what building that was, that's our dance academy. The second comparison that I would like to point out is that 605 High Street, which is a Baldwin City-owned business. And, well, Glenn's not here right now, but when the city council first asked for for-profit businesses to take over their buildings, we had 4 buildings in downtown. There was the bullpen building, the ice cream factory, and the 605 High Street, which is known as the business incubator. They also owned a Red Barn building, also in downtown. 5 years ago, when the city wanted for-profit businesses to lease those businesses, they did very successfully for the first 3. The 4th one they sold. That one is still sitting empty here 5 years later, and it's doing no one any good in downtown. So I appreciate Josie for speaking up on some of the other buildings, but I also wanted to make sure that you know the full comparison. I also spoke with someone else. I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but I spoke with another business owner here in town who does residential and commercial leases, and I asked her, what do you do for your buildings? And she said, it's 50-50 with her company. Some people she does charge it, and some people, it's based on per location, per business that's going into this place, not a standard one-size-fits-all in our downtown. So I just wanted to make sure that we're looking at all the comparable buildings, not just one in particular. Okay.
So as not to rush this or short-circuit it, do I have other people who'd care to make a comment? Chris, go ahead.
Christopher O'Neill, 134A Santa Fe Drive. Subsidies was mentioned and giving bargains to people. And just last year, prior to the exit, there was a subsidy given to build a permanent cost. to a significant sum.
I'm sorry, who was that to? Just repeat that,
Builder,
please.
significant, building permit costs.
Okay, I see, okay, thank you.
There was a half cost basically given for, what, 2 more years?
Till March 1st of next year.
Yes. So deals are given. It's not like it's not. And I'm here in support of the bullpen and something being done to where local business can stay in business. There's deals being made. They, you know, when a city can, they should, as you have. That's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Krista Manbeck. My mom, Nikki Manbeck, obviously the owner of the bullpen. I have been by her side creating, when it first opened, the bullpen. I've always been there for her. And no matter what, this community has always helped her through that. Every struggle that has happened, the community has helped. The bullpen is not just a bar, but it created a family and a good community. And I think that with it being gone, the family will still be there no matter what, but it will be different. And the bullpen has definitely helped a lot of people, even if they don't realize it. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak?
I'd like to, if you don't mind.
Come on up here.
Back last year,
Don, can you give your name and address, please?
Don Bowers,
Thank you, sir. Address
Baldwin City, Kansas,
by me.
215 Eisenhower.
Got it, thank you.
But anyway, last year, I had to go to Australia, and everyone behind me helped me get a ticket, and it was from the bullpen. And I just got to say that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Don.
Anyone else? I take it for right now, that's no. So, no one? Let's go ahead.
I don't know where you guys want to start. I guess what we talked about last time at the last council meeting was, I think it was the last council meeting. I know in the budget and finance, we talked about standardizing on leases, because as we looked at the 3 leases that we have, they're all different, which is a problem. You know, then it becomes, how do you manage that? How do you justify that? So
Well, it could seem like you're being impartial to one over the other if we don't
I mean,
standardize it. So
it doesn't make sense. I mean, they were done individually at different times, so whoever was in place at the time just put the lease together how they saw fit. But then as these situations come up, then you're stuck with, well, they're getting this and they're not, you know. And so I think as a council, I think we need to decide if we want to standardize on a lease structure. If we're going to be in the leasing business, we need to decide that. If we do, we have to do it now, because whatever we do here, it's 5 more years before this one comes back up. So unfortunately, the timing of this has kind of brought all this to light, and would like to get to a point where we're not. But I don't think rushing to get this done for this current lease that's expiring, just because it's expiring, makes sense. So I think what we should do, and I'm open for when we need to discuss it, is I think we need to give the bullpen another 30-day extension while I think we had a draft template brought forward recently by city administrator and, attorney about what a triple net lease would look like from the city. Definitely needs to be vetted. We need to talk about it. We need to decide what the final product is. Can't do that tonight. It'd be foolish. So I think in my mind, and the tenants need to have a look at it as well, not just the bullpen, but the other two need to see it as well, because they're going to get it as well as soon as theirs expires. And 605 High Street, I think, expires in July. So we need to get that to them now and get feedback, from all our tenants to make sure we rationalize all this. So I'm not advocating making a decision on the bullpen lease tonight. I think we got work to do on a triple net lease. And the reason I think the city should go to triple net, and I shared this with Nikki, is that it's the most predictable expense budget impact that the city has. So if you minimize what you're responsible for, then you have a pretty good idea what that expense would be for the year and make budgeting easier. If you do a gross lease and you have property tax increases, you have maintenance, things that happen, you can't budget for it very well. So I think it's in the city's best interest to try to get to a triple net. Now that doesn't mean just slam everything on the tenants, but it means trying to figure out how do we get there and what's fair and equitable. What can we do? What would work for our current tenants? And I don't think it necessarily means it all drops in the next year lease, but I think that next 5-year lease ought to have a plan that we get to full triple net coverage, whether it's full property tax year one and a reduced rent to offset that to a certain amount, so the hit is not that full property tax this year because they didn't have it.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of conversation that we need to have with the tenants and with the council. So I guess my proposal would be to tonight approve a 30-day extension. I think currently through common law you have till the end of April to, under the old lease that is currently in place, expires to vacate. I think we need to extend that to the end of May, if that makes sense for you guys. And then we're gonna have to roll up our sleeves and figure out what this new lease needs to look like.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, before we proceed on all this, I'd like to say allocating the proceeds to the general fund. If the decision is made to continue leasing, I recommend that any rent increases for current tenants remain modest. Specifically, I would support an increase of $200, resulting in a total monthly rent of $1,200, inclusive of property taxes. I recognize that these discussions are part of an effort to address issues that were not handled appropriately in the past, and I appreciate the council's commitment to resolving them thoughtfully. Signed, respectfully, Jay King. I think this is kind of where I'm going to comment, if I can. Number one, I said it past and I say it again, I do not like the city being in the lease business. I don't think we should be in the lease business. I think it's something that, and quite honestly, we need to get out of. I don't think it's a good position to be in. That being said, this lady sitting across from us had a 5-year lease. We're into this lease with this lady. I think that as we move forward, she's given the opportunity to go through and see if she can work something out with the city. That being said, my opinion is leases, the city should be out of it. When I look at this too, when I came into this position as mayor, I did have several people, not just one or two, but several people, and I know you're probably going to get tired of this, people coming to me going, we don't like the way this city's operated. We're operating this city out of our back pocket. And I'm not here to indict any kind of previous administration, any kind of leadership or anything, but the issue becomes we need to move forward with a triple net lease, be it either with the bullpen, with the building down on High Street, or the ice cream store. That's to ensure the city works it properly, it's properly addressed, it is a business practice, it is accepted business practice, and it just protects the city. That's just how I see it. Now, the issue of what we decide to do with Nikki and rent or whatever, that's for you all to decide. You know, so I'm just gonna leave it in your hands to make that decision on what you want to do. It's just for me, you know, I look back and I heard the one lady, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. You know, I agree the city should give seed money. I agree with that. New business coming into this community, we want to go through and promote growth, and I'm not against giving seed money. Seed money being, I don't know, $300 rent off a building every year or whatever. But I'm looking at a business that has been here 5 years. There's a difference between starting out and an established business that's been here 5 years. Seed money? No, I'm sorry. I don't think there should be any seed money there. We've had time to build a business plan. We've had time to go through and promote our business. Whether that's done or not, I don't know. My issue with also going through, and I know it was raised, that if we go through and kind of work a deal where we take some of the rent that we talk about and propose and lower that and say, let's make it $700 a month, she can pay the $300 to come up to a total of $1,000, $300 being personal property tax, $700 being the rent to the business. How do I explain that to other citizens? How do I explain that to other businesses who come to me and go, you know what? I had a really high light bill for the last 3 months and my business is not doing that good. I would like you as a city to go through and forgive my light bill for the next 3 months. And I say, I can't do that. What's the first thing you're going to point out to me? Mayor, you're doing it down the street at the bullpen. So, yes, it is the same. It is the same. So I do not see that in this situation, okay? And that's my feelings. Again, you know them. We know where we are. And I'll let the council decide how they want to work the lease out with Nikki and see where they want to go with it.
I'll just address Jay's letter. I also agree the city really shouldn't be in the landlord business. And I think part of the issue is you know, it's difficult for us to understand what the market is. You know, when you put it out there, you know, into the private hands, then they get to decide what the market is. They're going to be more interested in figuring it out, more in need of figuring it out, and try to maximize what they can do for rent, but also make it viable for the tenant. And we're just not, as a public organization, set up to do that and do it very well. So I think the issue of figuring out what the right rent should be is extremely difficult. And I think when these leases were set up, I think it was just picking a number that worked for everybody without really knowing what the you know, market rate was.
And then not necessarily completely documenting it all, which makes it hard for us to try to pick up the pieces and figure out what the original agreement even was. But
So I think the whole issue around subsidies, I think, you know, it was brought up, you know, you talked about it. We had both sides of the coin brought up, and, you know, the one thing that was brought up about the building permit fee reduction, it really doesn't apply here because that is offered to everybody. Any builder that wants to build gets that same reduction. And the problem here is whatever we do as would be considered as a subsidy would only be for three organizations or one. So it's those two comparisons don't apply. But I don't know that what we have offered or what Nikki has proposed is not, you know, market pricing. And so what I at least want to do, and this is my personal opinion, is at least be as fair as we can between our three tenants to whatever it's practical. And you have in your packet, you have what we're currently charging per square foot for the three properties. And I'll just share it out here because it's public, it's in our packet. So the bullpen is renting it for 48 cents per square foot. The old Public Works building is being rented by the EDC, Economic Development Committee, and they're paying for a 3,360 square foot building, they're paying 30 cents a square foot. The ice cream shop, believe it or not, 416 square foot ish building, they're also paying 48 cents a square foot. So I can't sit here in my mind and justify why they don't line up. Now, maybe someone can tell me why they should, but if we're in the business of triple net leases where it's just the building and insurance,
foot.
it's square
Price per
footage.
square foot,
That's
yeah.
all you're really doing. If a tenant wants to come in and make modifications, that's on the tenant. You know, if their business plan says I need to come in and do these things, they need to bake it into their business plan. And I think they have. I think both organizations have done that. All three of them have done that. So as we go through this, if we do extend this and look at these leases and do a triple net, I think we got to figure out what our square foot rate is, because by the way, they're all downtown with downtown footage, right? So location is also the same. So the only thing that really differentiates them is the size of the buildings.
You know, the only thing I ask is that, you know, not, again, the council, you do what you need to do, and Julie, I want to ask for your comments in a section here. I don't want to put this young lady through a continual 30-day extension, 30-day extension. To me, that's, you know, the death by 1,000 cuts. This lady has got a business to run. She's trying to run it. And I think in some ways, you know, I would like to see some resolution one way or another so she can plan her business from this point forward. I just, you know, well, we'll do it another 30 days, another 30 days. I just think that's kind of unfair to her.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nikki.
That puts it in a lot of perspective. The old Public Works building, the 30 cents per square foot, if we were going to go to that rate, if I did my math right, wouldn't that be a rent rate of $624?
I haven't done the math.
Let's go with that one.
So.
I'm good.
Good point. So fair point. I'm not proposing one way or the other. I think they need to line up,
Okay.
and maybe they need to come up. So hey, comment section's over. Comment section's over.
There's one thing I did want to address. I know up here that almost every one of you do not want to be in the lease business. But when I first moved to town, our downtown was empty. If you guys sell those buildings, especially because I was told it cannot be sold to me, it would go to
It's
public.
not you specifically, it has to go to open. Bid.
Right.
Yeah.
If that happens, you guys lose control of that building. Someone could come in, buy the building, and use it for storage. Same thing with the ice cream factory, and we're seeing that right now with the red building. The red building that,
The barn.
yeah, the barn, 5 years ago, those were the 4 places. You leased out 3, sold 1, it's sitting empty for 5 years. I don't want to see that happen to these, we're reverting back to, we're undoing everything that the city was trying to do. That is true.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
To the mayor's comment, I mean, you've got a lease in front of you to renew that you haven't signed. Would you, and I think that's the only offer on the table, I mean, would you, it's either that or would you be willing to take a 30-day extension to have us figure something else out if it's possible? No guarantees it won't end up where we're at, but.
Yeah, well, I would take a 30-day extension. I can't sign that lease. I can't justify that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would love to sit down and talk about that some more.
There's really nothing to talk about other than if the council wants to make sure we're charging everybody the same rate, it gets back to what's the right rate. Okay, then it gets back to what makes sense. Then, you know, are we unfairly helping our tenants because we're not charging what the going rate is? That's the concern.
Well, and the only thing, I may or may not have mentioned this in the email, and one thing that you have to remember is when you lease in the government sector and not the private sector, you guys aren't, the city is not just making money on rent, where if you were in a private sector, they always typically would charge you more because all they're getting is rent. Where for the city is getting rent, retail tax, liquor tax, licensing fees, and rent.
So wouldn't
And
we-
utilities
Wouldn't we
paid.
get those taxes anyway, whether it was rented by a private person or company?
That depends if I stayed in town.
I'm just saying any company that goes in the city business, the city buildings, if they're owned by a private entity, those sales taxes and liquor taxes would come to the city anyway.
Well, maybe
It's not the
if-
fact that the city's leasing it to you. That's not really why the city's getting those taxes.
No, but when I was originally looking for a building, I didn't want, if you guys want to know the backstory, I put $38,000 into that building. I didn't get any incentives. I put that in there because I built it into my business plan. I expected to be here for 20 years. I certainly would not have invested $38,000 to be here for 5 years and then out the door. But I was looking for a building, and the city building was not my first. And I told you all this. This was not my first building. It's small, it's tiny. I wanted one of the other buildings that you guys had, but this is the one that was offered. It was a decent deal that I could build a 5-year plan and grow. If someone else owned that building and they said, it's gonna be $1,500 a month, I would have turned it down. And I know that from experience from owning the Nook building, which is currently sitting empty right now. The Nook building raised the rent $250 every year for 5 years. For the record, the landlord paid the property taxes on that one as well. But we couldn't sustain that. And I had a landlord that wasn't answering my emails, so I couldn't work it out. So when my 5-year lease was done, I'm done. And the current landlord right now is not making any money off that building. It's a downtown business that is sitting empty, doing nothing. I don't want to see that happen to the bullpen. I don't want to see that happen to the ice cream factory or the incubator.
You know, and if I can clarify something here, I'd like to say this. I think we need to separate when you talk about the landlord charging this and, you know, a landlord charging that for square footage. There's a distinct difference between a personal private landlord and a government entity and how they function, how they operate, and how they approach problems and solve problems. So I know what you're saying. You're going, well, the landlord's charging more, you know, or the landlord doesn't go through and charge a triple net. But the landlord's not a government function. It's not a government entity that has to protect its citizens. That has to go through and make sure that we're good stewards of the community's money. So I want to make sure we get that clear, that you can landlord all you want to, but a government is not a landlord. You know, we don't want to be in the landlord business. I don't. But that being said, you're there, and I want to make sure you get fair treatment. Because I'll be the first one to sit here and say, you serve a segment, a group of people within our community that sees that as a part of their life, as somewhere to go. And I'm happy with that. This is nothing personal. It's just, it is what it is. But again, it's government, and I got to look at the government side.
It's personal to us.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way because it's not.
Okay. Okay. I have no words for what you just stated right there.
Well, you know, I can just tell you this much. Again, spending 45 years in government, working numerous budgets, and being tasked with certain assignments and things like this, everything I ever did and I ever worked for, along with city administrators, was always done in the best interest and protection of that city, the government, and the citizens of that community. That's just the way it worked. I'm sorry.
Well, and so you said, I wanted a partnership, and that's what you want, whether you guys, if I was sitting here and I was renting just from you, not the mayor, not the city, just from you, this is the same exact thing that would happen. I would negotiate. If they said no, I would vacate.
You're asking me to answer something that didn't happen, is not happening, and won't happen, and that's not even close to being able to go through an answer.
I'm not sure why
A hypothetical.
you can do it and I can't, but okay.
So, and you know, again, not to turn it, because we'll be here all night going back and forth, back and forth. I want to make sure you have your say and what you feel. I just wanted to go through and say again, that clarification that the government is different than a private individual.
I'm going to talk to the city council members now, because you guys are the ones that have a vote in this. You guys are the ones who I've been discussing with this back and forth. Scott, I'm okay with a 30-day extension if we can sit down and go over this more, because clearly this is not a working solution.
That's what we needed to know.
Yeah.
Do you guys have to vote on that?
I think a 30-day extension is a good idea, so that we can figure this out, because, like Scott said earlier, this wasn't us doing this. This was the previous council and the other mayor and, down the road. So, I'm good with a 30-day extension, so we can figure this out. So it'll be fair to you and it'll be fair to the city. And I also say that I don't think we should be leasing property either. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Do you think that we should do the standard? I mean, I can't see why. I'm not trying to coerce you into a decision, but I can't see you saying no to this. But do you think we should standardize like an impartial flat fee on the square footage with the triple net on our other properties, like on all the properties, if we are going to go forward with? Because I think that's the next direction that we would go for that. Once we give her that 30-day extension, just so that we can make sure that we have something solid, so that you can have the time to also look at it and say, I'm interested or I'm not interested, because right now we don't even, like, if we don't even know what it's going to be, how are you supposed to know it's going to be? So,
I agree.
you agree? Okay.
Now, I've expressed this to two of you. Julie, I don't think I've mentioned this to you yet, but we keep talking about triple net leases, and a triple net lease would also include building insurance. And that's very difficult for us to do, because we share a wall, a foundation, a roof. We're the only building that does that. So it takes a lot of coordination in order to make sure there's no gaps or over-insuring on our building. With that said, I think I mentioned to both of you, I am not opposed to that. As you guys all know, the den burned down last year. It was very traumatic. I am fine adding insurance, but we can't do that right off the bat because of the reason that we are connected. Your insurance company has to go with my insurance company, and we have to make sure there's no gaps in between. That's why making it a triple net lease right now would be difficult.
Right, and I think that's why we need to take some time and figure that out, things like that. And we have to have enough time to think all that through, what makes sense. You've been through it before, you've seen it work this way. I know Russ has been involved in a lot of these types of leases, so we just got to come up with something that makes sense. And I don't have the answer, because I don't know how it typically works. And I don't know what the costs are associated with it either.
I don't either. My other joint business, we don't. She takes care, my landlords take care of it, I don't. But I do use Farm Bureau, so we could sit down and talk with them.
Do you want to just how to table it?
No, I want to make a motion that we extend the current bullpen lease for 30 days. And do we need anything other language in that?
I just need to know the terms. Are we just leaving it? I think she paid $1,000 at the last time. Same terms.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave everything the same as the 5-year lease that we extended to her. She won't have to pay property taxes for 1 month. It'll just be $1,000, right? Okay. Yep. Nope, I got that.
Do I need to send you that same email from last month?
I'm typing up a new lease. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'm making a new 30-day lease. So if they approve it, then I will send that to Russ to double check my work, and then he'll forward you the lease. And then you just need to sign that before the end of the month. Otherwise, you would have to vacate before the end of the month.
Right.
Net impact should be 0.
Right.
Right.
And if she,
We're just keeping the same terms.
Whatever it was.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And then as long
One
as,
more
she-
month.
right. And then, yeah, as long as she signs it before then the notice to vacate would be void, and you would get a new notice to vacate after May 1st.
Right.
So you'll get another one
Same
from
thing.
us, but it'll just be another.
So we need to really probably make this decision on the first meeting in May. So she has an idea of whether she wants to move forward or not, and still have time to vacate if she doesn't.
Right.
Is that how you see the timing working?
Yeah, that would give you at least 3 council meetings to kind of talk about the standardized lease that you want to do and what terms.
Be the next one and then
Next one, then May 1st, and then, I mean, she would just need to sign a new lease before the end of May, or she would.
Right, but we need to give her
need to give her the offer
well ahead of time to be able to make a
in
decision.
the first meeting in May.
Preferably, yeah, definitely.
That's the goal.
So you'll send me the same one that I rejected last
No,
month? I just
no,
rejected
and this is
again?
the standardized, when we go through and standardize all the leases throughout, like whatever we decide on.
We switched gears on you, sorry. We're doing the 30-day will be this net effect, same payment you had last time. This new triple net that we're trying to get to, the new 5-year lease, we need to have figured out and a decision made in the first council meeting in May. So we need to jointly figure all this out and, have conversations with you about what it looks like and come to something that would come to the council, more discussion, and something would be decided.
And hopefully less situations like this where we're up here, everybody's trying to chase our tails and figure out what the actual terms are going to be. The hope is that once it's standardized for all these different leases, get the lease out far ahead of time, at least 1 month. I think that we're hoping for, well, I know that our hope is 6, but there's no way to do that for Nikki since we're already there.
That's why we're extending this.
Yeah.
Because, I think both sides did a poor job of getting 6 months ahead of this, which the new lease will require it to happen. Because really, and you're smiling.
Because I started a year ago. Amber, is my lease up? Nope, not till next year. And then every month after that. So I tried.
I understand. We're going to put in the lease, so as soon as you make that notification, then it's incumbent on the council to begin dialogue with the tenant on what's coming forward. So
Is it the council or is it going to be Russ?
I haven't seen the lease. I don't know.
For the new notice, I did clarify, so there's no ambiguity in where notice needs to go. It would go to the city administrator. And that's outlined in the draft of the template. And we can make that different. I would recommend that the city would stick with either the administrator or the mayor. I would, maybe the clerk. I wouldn't go outside of those 3 parties.
Mm-hmm. And then the council would make the final decision?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
The city ordinance states the council makes decisions on
Okay.
leasing and sales. So ultimately, it's the council's decision.
And I think the city administrator makes the most sense.
Yes.
Because
It would,
theoretically, they're going to be longer tenured than any council.
Right.
Probably only 2 years running, so, and a mayor for. So you're going to have people coming in and out. You'd like some continuity. So if the city administrator is the point person for this, I think that helps everybody.
And I have a backup provision just in case for whatever the city administrator, it's a vacant position, then notice can go to the mayor as a backup, because hopefully you should have at least one of those 2 filled.
Okay.
and then is there anything in there as far as like the council needs to get involved because the city administrator and the tenant are just not, or there's button heads that can't come to an agreement to bring to the council? Do we step in at any point in there?
So there are specific provisions within the commercial lease agreement where there are provisions where if the city administrator can approve some minor things, if it's something more major, it can either be the city administrator or the city council. Bigger stuff, like big changes, would need to come from the council, is how I have it outlined. And you guys can, tweak it and change it as much as you want. This is just a rough draft, and you guys can just go crazy with it.
And the big changes include like disagreements that they can't resolve on their own, then it would come to the council at that point, you think? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
The city administrator says no. If dad says no, they can come to mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Does that clear, Nikki, does that make sense to you?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
that
okay.
was the idea I had in my head when we started this, is
Yeah.
that we would negotiate, you guys would approve it. That just didn't happen.
Yeah, no, the council would have to approve rates and everything like that. We can only propose terms. Ultimately, it's their decision.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So does this mean Russ and I are going to get together, or does this mean I'm going to get together with you guys?
He'll be the point person for it. If he wants to pull others in, he certainly can do that.
And then we would be the final say, which is the same thing. I think you were under the impression that.
That's what it was.
Yes. So that, yeah, it's supposed to go that way. And, you know, we'll always, hopefully moving forward, that'll always be the way that it is, especially with, you know, if we have enough time, if you have enough time to actually have those conversations between the city manager yourself, the tenants and the city manager. So that way, any kind of, you know, haggling back and forth within reason, as long as it's not major, like I think Jessica said, if it's something major and like you're asking for, you know, this much, and the city manager's like, no, we're going to raise it, you know, $1,000 a month or something like that, then those kind of things would come to the, if it's outside of our terms, our typical terms, then that would come to the city council to be like, yeah, we approve $1,000 more a month. So.
So the way Russ works, and I think it makes sense, especially since this is such a difficult topic, is he'll communicate with council members rather than him trying to figure out what would pass with the council. He needs to figure out what the council wants to do and get that kind of all packaged up, and then you have one focal point to have that communication, and you're not hearing 5 different things on every one of these things from every different council member. That doesn't work.
Russ is gonna love that.
Yeah, that's just
Another question I have, how close are we to having, because I haven't looked at that, the one that was in there, I don't know how quickly or how recently that was sent out, but how, do we have an estimated timeline on when we can actually have like a final version of that standardized template?
Great question. So there is one in the packet that we made between the attorney and myself, kind of went through
Yeah.
to have in the packet for you guys to look at tonight. So we do have a good starting point for that.
Would that make sense for us to bring it, like have all of the, like have that one of the agendas on the budget and finance?
we will. And then every council member needs to provide their
Yes,
feedback to
100%.
Russ
Yes.
on it.
Okay.
And if it's helpful, I'm happy to be there to kind of explain the different
Yes,
provisions,
please.
what you can take out and what you could put in and what you
Yeah.
can negotiate.
Yeah, that would, if you could be at the next one, that would be big help.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so did I already move it or did I'm gonna move that we extend the bullpen lease for 30 days.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. If I can make one more, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nikki.
Well, I was gonna ask if I could address the audience so they can put up their chairs.
Yeah, may I ask just one thing? I would really like to compliment the audience tonight. I really am, and I'm sincere about that. You came to support her. You were all very, very professional, I think, if I can use that term. You were sat there, and maybe even at times you didn't like what was said or what was heard. You weren't disruptive. You weren't antagonistic or adversarial, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and thank you for showing up. That's what this is about.
Hey, Nikki, we'll get the chairs, so
Don't
you
worry
don't,
about it.
we'll get them. No, so
We'll get it.
Other stuff we gotta.
it'll be disruptive. So we'll be
Go ahead.
happy to get 'em.
you, though.
Yeah, never.
Do we need to vote on standardizing the lease?
No,
Okay.
we don't have one to standardize,
I know. Can I sit down? Yes.
but he needs to be part of that conversation anyway.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Yeah, Corey
This is
would
more
not
than
be.
a single entity lease.
Okay.
I would say you can do whatever you
If it
want.
impacts that decision, I shouldn't.
It would be entirely up to you. If you think it would impact
Yeah.
that, then yeah, you would wanna, yeah.
Okay.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Kind of give them a second to clear out, then we'll move on to the new business.
Definitely want your input.
Let the commotion kind of die down here. Gonna move to the new business. All right, new businesses, we're going to look at Resolution 2026-01, project bonding.
So tonight, Matt Lawn with Baker Tilly is here to talk about Resolution 2026-01. This is the resolution for the project bonding. Just to kind of give you a quick rundown of what's in this bonding. The US 56 pedestrian crossing improvements, which you all have been seeing happening moving forward on 56. This also encompasses the 56 corridor management improvement project. This was also contains the Maple Leaf Trail Phase 2 improvements, and the completion of the police department building improvements, as well as the Elm Street improvements, as well as finally the finishing of the community center. So, and I'm gonna let Matt talk from here. And
yeah, so there's gonna be a total of 2 actions tonight. First is the project approval. The second is gonna be authorization to advertise the temp notes. So this is the first one. It covers the projects that Russ mentioned. So essentially this action authorizes the projects and the source of financing for them. It includes these capital improvement projects that he mentioned, and essentially financing through general obligation debt, even though these are temp notes, which means that, you know, they're going to be issued until 28, and then we'll either refund them with permanent long-term financing or some portion of them with that, and then if there's cash available to pay off a certain amount, that'll happen at that time too. This is purpose of these temp notes really is to pay for the actual construction costs and other costs that go into it, and then we figure out how to make the long-term payment after that. So this is kind of like the construction stage. The next is the permanent financing stage.
So on the US 56 corridor project, I mean, we've got to fund it. We got to cash flow it, right? So that's why this number is as big as it is.
yes, that's why it's showing on there on the 2.6. So
Let's just make sure everybody understands what the final net is going to be.
So on this one, as far as the project cost is $2,603,000 is what the estimated cost is for the project. Of that, we will get reimbursed $2 million from that, is what we will receive back.
Yeah, so essentially, you know, that will be used to repay these, and any permanent financing you need for the rest of the projects will not, obviously, you won't be borrowing that again.
That's right.
Yeah. Also, if the numbers here look different from what you may have seen for these projects before, please remember this includes capitalized interest and any fees associated with the issuance as well. So.
And these are going to end up being 20-year, or this GO, or what are we doing?
Well,
So this is a 2-year.
2-year
This is a
temporary.
2-year
but
term, but then, so the plan is that we have to keep the notes for a minimum of 12 months.
Right.
And, you know, but we hope that all these projects are done within the 12-month period. So then at that time, we could go out for the financing. Now, I don't know that we necessarily will have to do a 20-year. We could probably do a 10 or a 15. It kind of depends on where we end up with everything.
So we're only going to we're only going to take out this bond to cover the cash flow of the $2 million we get reimbursed.
Correct.
In 2 years, we're going to do another bond for the remainder, a much smaller amount,
Yes.
for a period of time.
Correct.
So that's really what we're going to be paying for over a longer period,
Yes.
not this full amount.
Not this, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions?
Russ, I think I remember from the Budget and Finance Committee, this isn't going to raise is this going to raise our mills, or is it going to be, as mills fall off, this will kick in?
So Matt can answer that question, but my understanding is no. By the time this kicks in, we'll
Yeah.
have some that fall off, so you won't notice any difference.
Okay, that's what
my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered, so thank you for clarifying.
That's actually a question for when we issue the permanent bond. This is a temporary bond. This will not have any impact on mill levy whatsoever.
Right, but I think
Now
that
you are
we were
putting
trying to project.
Right, but yes, our projections show that your debt that falls off between now and the time this would get made permanent would essentially you'd be able to use your current levy to make the payments.
Is that the Public Works building? Which is that comes off?
I think so.
I think it is.
That sounds right. Mhm.
Okay. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Other questions? Russ, you have anything else you'd like to add, Matt?
Oh, just to clarify for the public, these bonds that we're working on right now have been in the works for a long time. So at this point, for any of us to say no, we'd be eating a huge amount of investment that have already been made at the city level. So just putting it out there.
You know, I will add the corridor management project was approved back in 2016. So that has been, 10 years ago.
Yeah. And we've invested a lot of money in a lot of these different projects. So
Correct.
going back now would not be a good idea.
We've got a lot of money invested in engineering and all those things. And, the problem why that project has lagged along, taken so long is, well, one, COVID, two, the state kind of shut down certain things on projects they were going to do for funding wise and asked us to hold off. So it's taken a long time to get to to the finish line, but we're finally here.
And a lot of the monies that is going to be reimbursed to us comes from KDOT. And if you go back on your word with KDOT, you likely won't get a chance to ever get KDOT money again. So that's another thing to keep in mind about trying to shut one of these things down now is it would be pretty stupid for the city to do that, in my opinion.
Good. Need to vote on it?
I move we adopt resolution number 2026-01 as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None opposed? Passed. Looking at resolution 2026-02, sale of general obligation bonds.
Yeah, so this action will approve the sale of the temporary notes and proceed with the financing process. It approves the competitive sale process and the presented offering documents. The city's going to issue approximately $4.39 million in GO temporary notes maturing in September of 2028. These notes provide short-term funding for the projects that we approved in the last action. Backed by the city's full faith and credit, notes will be sold competitively May 5th at 10 a.m. and awarded based on lowest interest cost. Currently, the city has got a long-term finance rating of A by S&P, who is currently considering the rating on this particular issuance, and they do not anticipate that their short-term rating will be changed, but they did say that there was pressure to downgrade the long-term rating, but again, that doesn't really apply to this because they use the short-term rating for the TEP notes, and the pressure they pointed out was because of just lower reserves than the city's policy basically for the general fund.
Is the general fund not within policy?
Well, policy is 15 to 25% of total expenditures.
Last numbers we saw now, so we're trying to figure out.
When did we have our last bond rating? Those are the numbers they should go off of, and that's because we got dropped to an A.
Yeah, but
and then we fulfilled that gap. We should be. How often do they do a bond rating? Is it every 2 years?
You do a rating every time you do an issuance.
Okay.
So it's basically a snapshot of the current financial position is what they're using for it.
Okay.
And again, that was just her 10,000-foot view. We don't know what it's going to be, but again, she did say that she did not anticipate a downward rating for the temporary financing rating just for the long term. And that won't come up and be a factor until
you have
does get switched over to
long term
financing. And you're going to see from us later this year when we go through budget our recommendations for continuing to build that general fund reserve balance.
Well, we've ran the numbers on what the difference between an A.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, an A rating is considered investment grade. It's like upper middle of the investment grade range. It's not bad. It's not the best, but again, I mean, you're not going to see very many cities of this size anywhere with AAA plus.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's a pretty negligible amount, right? For
difference.
Yeah. Especially considering the size of the issuance, you're not dealing with
Right.
huge dollar amounts of, the fractions of a percentage.
Right.
But I was surprised as well. I thought we were forecasting to be within policy on the
We're trying to
general
figure out
fund.
where we got off.
So we're digging in to
Well,
figure out where we got.
Think of it this way: you've got about it's more than 4 million, but let's say your budget is 4 million for general fund. You'd need $1 million January 1st to meet that 25% upper threshold.
Well, does it matter if you're at the top of the threshold or if you're at the?
No, I mean, but they do want to see you at 15%. You're still not at 15%.
Where are we at?
It was somewhere like 350,000 ish at the end of the year.
Close.
I thought we were there.
What
I
are
don't
we?
know, we're not.
Yeah. What did we?
I don't know.
What did we get into that reserve for?
I don't know. We'll dig into it. but
Well,
yeah.
again, it was negative the year before. So, I mean, we're moving in the right direction, but
Was it a franchise fee? Okay. We'll do.
I honestly don't know, but we're going to ask Baker Tilly to present to the council, I guess next meeting, first quarter recap. So every quarter, like them to come in and talk about it so we can have this conversation.
yeah,
In a broader audience than just the budget and finance.
we're working on actually the forecast for kind of pre-budget.
Yeah, so you'll be
We'll be talking about that.
yeah, as well. So take a note, Russ, that we're going to talk about inviting Baker Tilly to the next council meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? We're agreeable with that. Do I have a motion?
I move we authorize the offering for sale Geo temporary notes, Series 2026A, the City of Bolton City.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 2026-02 sale of general obligation bonds is approved. Let's go back to now the generator capacity discussion. It's the highlight of the evening.
I like this topic. Yeah. Didn't we just have this conversation? It's fascinating.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. I asked to be put on the agenda tonight because I was recently made aware of some used generation that became available. So that leads us to the term that everybody wants to hear about, and that's capacity. Since we have a new mayor and a new council member here this evening that hasn't heard a lot about this discussion. So basically, SPP requires any electric utility within their footprint to have a reserve capacity of their highest peak plus this year 16%. So since our last conversation about this topic, there's some new things that came to light. One of them being performance-based accreditation. In the past, any generator source was able to claim their nameplate capacity. Through Winter Storm Uri and some other times that our grid was taxed, they determined that there was a lot of these units that couldn't respond for one reason or another. So they started looking at past performance on these generators, and their capacity is now derated based on their unavailable times. So this performance-based accreditation became part of the figure back in 2023. So that was about the time we probably had this last conversation talking about the two new generators that we put in. So as of now, we know what our numbers are. So we are not able to claim our full capacity on our generators, and also any other generating entities that we buy from, our power purchase agreements, they follow the same rules. If they have a time frame that they're not available during peak winter and peak summer time, then they're derated also. So they're not able to sell or to claim their amount of capacity as well during those time frames. So what has happened is every utility has gotten kind of tight on capacity. So everybody's looking at what's the fastest thing we can do to get capacity online, get generators online. Luckily, you guys allowed us to do that. We got two megawatt units that were installed and put online early last year. January is when they both went into effect. Had we not done that, we would be in a deficit right now, which would force us to be buying capacity from another generator source. So where we're at now is we're in pretty good shape now. The graph that we have up on the projector now is the projected peak demand of resources with upgrades. That is actually a spreadsheet that Rob started many years ago. We've been looking at that for many years. So this is kind of what keeps us on track to see if we're planning our capacity far enough into the future. So some of the things that have happened here recently is, as you can see, that on the capacity requirements, that takes into effect our peak in the previous years, and then it adds the reserve capacity on top of that. So that gives us our net capacity requirement for the year. If you look down below in firm resources, you see our power purchase agreements that we buy from. Each of those has a certain amount of capacity. So the numbers down below are what they've been given capacity credits for. So that can go into our peak plus 16% is whatever capacity we're receiving from that. So down on the one of the last lines there is called capacity surplus. When you're looking at 2025, that is our actual capacity surplus for 2025. So we're a little bit over 5 megawatts long. That is decreased in 2026 for two reasons. One is the performance-based accreditation kicked in, and the second reason is that you guys as a council dropped our amount that we get from GRDA from 3 megawatts around the clock to 1.5. So we lost that amount of capacity during that time. But at the time, we all thought that we were okay because of the amount of generation that we had, and that we had planned those two other generators as well. So all in all, right now, we're sitting in pretty good shape. Better than maybe we thought we would be when we were talking about the performance-based accreditation. The wild card is our downtown plant. We've been talking about that, I know, as long as I've been involved here. What's the expiration date of the downtown plant? The newest unit down there is 1970. The other two that are online are late 50s. The switchgear down there is 50s. It was installed, actually used, back in the 70s. So it all has a lifespan. I don't know what that lifespan is, but that's something that we need to be cognizant of going into the future is at any second that we could lose that 3 megawatts of capacity. And then we immediately go into deficit again where we're buying capacity. So starting next month, KMEA cities, the cities within the state of Kansas that own utilities, they trade capacity. In the past, up until this month, the capacity has been $2.25 per kilowatt hour, or per kilowatt per month. Starting next month, that's changed to 5. So it's more than doubled. So having enough capacity is becoming very important.
Why did that go up?
Because all of the demand, all of us that were cut back, with the performance-based accreditation and all of the new load, data centers and all that, you were hearing all that, it's all.
Well, 5's the number that we've been talking about for a few years now.
Right.
That was what it was going to go to. It's just I didn't realize it was going to happen so sudden.
Right. And it actually, we voted last year within the MP cities that starting May 1, it's going to $5 because that's what the market is moving, and even higher than that. We're trying to keep it, since we're all one group, we try to keep it as low as we can for all of our member cities. But some of the capacity being traded at other places is $7 plus. last summer, we actually sold some of our summer capacity extra to KCBPU, Kansas City Board of Public Utilities, purchased some of our excess summer for capacity for 3 months, and we took advantage of that and sold some of ours. So there is a demand for it. I think there's going, in the next few years, going to be probably even a higher demand, and then it may, based on how many of these data centers are actually built and how much generation is built in the footprint, it could taper off a little bit, or it could keep climbing or stay steady. So nobody has that magic 8 ball to figure out what that's going to do. But it's all something that we need to be cognizant of to know where we're at. Another thing we need to think about is the time frame to get something new online.
Yeah.
There is basically a 1-year permitting fee within the state, and then if you have to order a generator, it's a minimum of 3 years anymore. There's a bunch of cities within the state that have put in new CATs and ordered new CATs. The lead time now is above 3 years. So this is what I'm bringing to you tonight is under a proactive approach, versus being a reactive. Let's say something happened. We are testing our generators downtown this year. We do it every 5 years. We could find out that 1 to 3 of them maybe don't pass and aren't safe to run anymore. So it could happen as immediately as this year. So then we're looking at how we're going to scramble to cover this extra capacity cost. So I don't want you to think I'm telling you the sky is falling or anything like that, but during the last couple of years, what we thought we were in pretty good shape, we're now getting a little tighter. So when these units became available, that's why I went to Russ and asked, if I could maybe present this to you guys and get your opinions on it. One of the other sheets behind that one is the summer schedule. The summer and winter schedule in there, I'm not going to go into great depth, but this is what KMEA gave us, and that's what they thought how we're headed as far as our peak loads and our capacity. It pretty much is within 10% of my estimates as well. So I don't think that my estimates are wrong, and I don't think theirs are. I think these are legitimate numbers of what we're looking at. So so to keep on going throughout the package, there's a picture in there of what the units would look like. If you want to get deep down into it, there's this conventional unit accreditation. It talks, that's actually upside down. The conventional unit accreditation is some of the cities within the EMP groups and what their units were rated at as far as the performance based. It's a 7-year rolling average of how you've performed, but since it only started in 22 or 23, they went back and gave the previous 5 years a set, what they considered the normal for that type of a unit. So if you look through there, a turbine might have a 8%, where a recip engine is 5% or whatever is the average time that they're not available, during the peak seasons. So, and then starting in 2022 is our actual when we're available and such. So if you look through that, there was a couple of our units that were derated pretty heavy, and one of the reasons is we were dispatched to run a couple times that we were dispatched to run more generation than when we had load. They wanted more out of our units than what our town was using. And we had not worked with Evergy at that point to be able to push back excess energy. That has since been done. That stuff was done last year. We can now push up to whatever our capacity of our transformer is. So that will not bite us in the future. So there's a couple numbers there, 17% and 21% for those 2 units in 22 and 23. That should never be that high again, because we've got past that hurdle. We're able to push back, so those numbers should be going down, getting close to 0. So hopefully those haircuts in the future years going forward are less than what they are now because they're going on an average of that type of a unit. So I'll try to keep moving here. The picture that we showed is a typical unit of what's available. This is not the units, but it would be what it would look like. So what piqued my interest on these units was when we're looking for something that would work, we're looking at all these check boxes that we got to check that would work. This one fits almost all of them. These units fit almost all of them. They're the correct voltage. They are enclosed in containers, so they can be placed anywhere. The reason that that's becoming important is that we've taxed out our infrastructure at the new power plant. If we had anything more there, we're going to have to do some infrastructure upgrades. Our lines going out of there are almost to their peak, so we couldn't add 2 more units there without upgrading our conductors leaving the building and going to the sub. The other thing is fuel lines. Fuel lines are taxed out. So my thoughts on if we were to consider these units, that maybe they would fit in at either one or both of the substations. Each of our substations have 2 extra breakers on them available. That would save some costs on the install, and it would allow us to put some easily there. They would be remote run at that point, and they have belly tanks on them with a 48 hours at full load capacity. So that unit could run 48 hours before we'd have to worry about how we're going to get fuel to it. Those units, if we were to do that, those would probably be our last resort unit. We would only run them when we absolutely had to. Couple reasons. One is the neighbors are probably not going to like it when it's running, because there is some noise. Obviously they have mufflers, but the neighbors around could hear it. But if we were to the point where we had to run it, I think neighbors would be okay for running it for a few hours versus some people not being able to have power. So I think that's what makes the substations a good option for this, and these units a good option for the substations. So let's get down to, there's 11 of them. They're 2006 units. They're 2 megawatts each. They're Cummins units. These, like the CAT units that we just installed, are the year and vintage that you did not have to have the exhaust treatment on, and you do not have to run catalyst on them. They fall under factory certified for the year. That is getting very rare to find. Since the 2 that we put in, I've only known of 1 other available that fell under that category. So again, that's just one of the reasons why it's checking all these boxes. They're low hours. Every one of them's less than 1,000. They have been offered to 1 municipal utility here in Kansas, all of them. I don't know how they're going to react on that. I think that there's probably going to be some availability, because I don't know that they plan on taking them all.
Right, all 11.
But the seller has said that he is holding it out for them to buy all of them. He would like to sell them all in a package, but he would be open to, if one entity didn't buy them all, that there is some other cities within the state that have expressed some interest as well. So the price on these units delivered is $380,000 each. That's just to get them delivered and set here. When I asked Mike Schmatter from Mid-States what the going rate of hooking them up was, just a budgetary number, he said he was at $450,000 per unit. I think that's a little high because of where we would probably place them. Some of that infrastructure is already there. We wouldn't have to buy new breakers. The 2 breakers that we bought to put those 2 units in at the new plant were $150,000 for the 2 of them. So I could see where we could probably pull that number down a little bit if we were planning on putting it at the substation. So, we can talk about the capacity value if there is a market for it. If we could sell every bit of extra capacity we have, we could look at 80 to 100,000 per unit in capacity value per year. So if we could sell all that at the going capacity rate, this would make this a lot easier decision, because the payback would be pretty short on it. But no one can promise that that's there. I mean, we had these discussions on the last time, we can't value it at that. But the fact that we can possibly get these in at the price point that they are, and having these units that check all the boxes. I don't think that I remember Scott having a discussion, well, there's gonna be more of these coming. I think we're to the point where there isn't going to be the ones that check all of these boxes. We're getting into the new units, the newer units that have the treatment on the exhaust, and the experience that other municipals are having with them is they are not reliable during the winter at all. Those units, SCR treatment and DEF and diesels, anybody that owns diesel pickups or tractors knows, for a unit to sit for months on end and then try to use them, the DEF doesn't work well with that, because DEF expires. DEF plugs up things. So these are getting to the point of where we're going to be looking for something like this, and they're going to be really hard to find, or we're going to be looking at newer units that have the emissions on them, which are way more expensive and way less reliable, in my opinion. The cost on new units, they're running about $1 million per megawatt just to buy the unit. These are 2 megawatts, they're priced at $380. So, significant savings if we were to look at these.
They're $380 a piece in each 2 megawatts.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Can I clarify something real quick?
Yes.
So I have a lot of crazy math, and he helped me with a calculator. So 2026, for example, I'm always trying to put a price tag. It's a commodity, right? We have a commodity if we have an excess of it. In 2026, you expected a 3.06 surplus in megawatts of capacity is what you have in there. So
yes,
that would be about $5,000 a megawatt at $5 a kilowatt, correct? So you'd have 15.
So 3 megawatts times $5 is $1,500 per month per megawatt.
So this is per month, because this is projected total surplus for the year.
Yes.
That's what I was. So assuming that that's the surplus currently, and if we add 4, for you had mentioned 80,000 possible per year.
So I'm going back to the accredited one, because they are 2 megawatts,
right?
But they won't be accredited for 2 megawatts, especially at first, because we will have no history of them.
Correct.
So we're going to be derated again.
Right.
A certain amount. So we're probably looking at probably 1,800 that we could claim capacity on them for the first X number of years till we had our own history on them.
Okay. So, but if we're already 3 megawatts in excess for the year, then you would assume that you were going to be an extra 4 megawatts per month in addition to that.
If we were to get 2 units.
We get 2 more units. So they would effectively pay for them. I mean, so a bond, if you were to bond out 380,000 times 2, you mean $760,000. So you're at, I mean, probably at, yeah, plus installation, plus pouring pads.
800 each.
800 each. What'd you say it was?
800 if he thinks
800K
the
each.
installation was high.
Okay, so 1.6 million. So now you're at about like an $80,000-$90,000 bond payment, right? With current interest rates, where'd he go?
He left.
Oh,
But
it's our math guy.
But it would facilitate 2 things. It would give us a commodity that we could possibly sell, and like he was saying, that substation downtown that's on 1950s, 1970s generators. We know that there's a time limit. Those things are going to go down at some point. So this would also give us the ability to not go into a deficit on our capacity, which is nice also. So
No, I'm trying to find a way to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No.
I'm not arguing against it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to justify the math. So,
There's one thing that I didn't point out on that projected peak demand page. The very top line is the Baldwin SCADA peak demand. If you will look at that, I'm being very, very conservative on those numbers, because if you look at actual 2023, we're 11.3 was our peak. The last 2 years, we've been 9.97 and 9.96. So I took the adder off the 9.96. So, I mean, I'm not showing that we're, even out to 2030, that we're not ever going to hit the peak that we've already hit. So these are conservative numbers. So that number at the bottom, to me, is a pie in the sky number. I don't think we're going to have that many once we get further down the line. especially with the 3 new subdivisions we got going on. You know, and even housing is not a big load, but we're also talking about over 100 lots. So there is some extra load there coming at some point.
Right.
Any questions? I know this is pretty deep.
I don't want to get in the weeds. Are you available Friday at 9 o'clock?
Yep.
We'll go over this in more detail. But, I mean, we have this every 2 years. We have this, but we got to buy them now because hell of a deal and we'll never see it again. So, you know, you may be right this time, but we've said that every time. And we do need to look ahead. I think part of the reason we're here is because when we, and you correct me if I'm wrong, when we downgraded GRDA by 1.5 megawatts, we anticipated adding a couple of megawatts of solar. Right, so if you remember our capacity plan, that would be 1.6 megawatts starting in 27. So that's a gap here.
But we did add the Nemascala Flats that you'll see down there.
We
It
added-
starts in 27. The problem with solar is it's not one-to-one.
Understand, we added the Pratt piece, but we were also moving forward to try to add our own add 2 megawatts to the community solar. That would have been a 1.6 in capacity based on what they, so anyway, I think that's part of the reason we're in this spot. The second thing I'd like you to answer is, you know, those generators downtown are getting derated rapidly. You know, and you mentioned if one goes out, we'll be in crisis. No, we won't, because we're looking at a 3 megawatt surplus for the year, and I think our total for all 3 of those last time we talked about it was like 2.7 or something. If all 3 didn't make it,
Yeah.
so it's
there's
probably derated
basically
below
3
that.
down
So
there.
anyway, we could lose one, and we're still running at a surplus. So it wouldn't be an emergency for the year.
Problem, if the switchgear goes down, then you can't get power out of the building. So that would mean all 3 would be out. So,
It's
yes.
different than a generator going out. Yeah, so
Correct.
so there is risk there. So my question to you is, you're showing 2029 when these 2 would come online of running a 6.1 megawatt surplus in capacity. By then, those downtown generators are going to be well below 2 total in capacity. Can we just get rid of them and be done with that and stop operating that building? Is there any reason to keep that going and just drop our surplus from 6 to 4.5 or 5?
So what I see is any major thing, like a switchgear, it would not be feasible to replace the switchgear at that building. At that point, that building would be a museum or whatever you guys decided it to be. If we lose one generator at a time, then we're still just losing a portion of what capacity we have there. So,
But you'd have to look at the cost to maintain it versus how much capacity you're keeping alive
Correct.
and probably never really use it or need it, because we'll have the generating capacity we need without them.
correct.
We're just keeping them for the capacity, right? At that point.
Yeah,
In
and you'd have to offset that value versus what money you're putting in to keep them
So
going.
I just want to make sure I was looking at the numbers right.
Yes.
So I think that, and it'll be a future council, will have to make that call, but I think at some point, there's going to be too costly to keep running it, operating it, testing them, do all the things you got to do.
I think even at $5 a kilowatt,
Yeah.
if we could like,
They're going to be, we're not going to, I don't think we're going to run them and sell it, those.
As of now, we're claiming the capacity on them. As long as they're
we're
able to
not.
generate for 1 hour a year, we can claim capacity on them.
And so they'll be down to, all 3 will be probably down to less than 2 total megawatt. And so you just gotta look at what's the cost to keep them running. Is it worth it? And like you said, if the
It'll be
switch
a
goes
math
out,
problem.
it might make the decision for you.
It'll be a math problem at that point, where you go with it.
yeah.
Hey, do me a real quick favor if you can, and I appreciate the fact you came up here and spent your time here. In 30 words or less, outside of kilowatts, megawatts, this wattage, that wattage, explain to me what you want so the citizens understand what we're asking for and what direction we're trying to head. Because I take it we want to be proactive, which I am 100% support of. We you know, it's hard to fix a problem once it's broken. We screw around, but just, if you would, please. So if those people listening in can get with me and go, this is what he really means and this is what he wants.
Yeah, so
30 words, I've just,
I thought you said 30.
More generation.
Capacity is a huge thing, yeah. Capacity is a huge thing, but we're also using these units during an outage. Nobody knows it today, but we generated the town from 7:30 till 4:30 while the tie point was being replaced and then metering point was being replaced at 6th and Orange Street. Without generation, you would have had no power in town for 8 hours. So there's that, plus there's the capacity value of the units and the ability to own our units, control our units. The more that we own and control, the more that we control the pricing of. Because if we're going out and trying to buy capacity from another source, we're at the mercy of whatever the value of that capacity is right now.
no,
Did I
thank
help
you.
you?
That answers it. And I know, I think the other thing we need to maybe consider, and I know finances, money and things along this line, where do we have it, where it comes from? But I think we have to also keep in mind it's cheaper maybe to buy it now than 5 years down the road where this $380,000 unit now is turned into $750,000 due to inflation or whatever. So
New, that's a $2 million unit.
In Smithville and places around here have a lot of data centers going in, and those things, as they start to come online or start to hit those cities that are trying to generate power for them, and the capacity is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
I think.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
Quite an entertaining conversation, I might add, to get it through, so.
I speak sarcasm, so I got that.
Okay, thank you. Next thing, do we need to make a motion on that?
I have a question for Jeff.
Hey, Jeff?
Jeff, you're not.
You're not done yet. Come on up.
How many units are you wanting to get?
Yeah, two.
Just two?
As many as you want. Yeah.
11.
4? We have room for 4?
My thoughts are one is an improvement. One gets us 2 megawatts down the road. And the fact that they could be put at one of the substations, you could put one there. If something else became available 3 years down the road that we thought we needed, maybe it could go at the other substation. But the other thing to think about is if we bought these today and stuck them somewhere, back down at the facility or whatever, it's probably 3 years before they're going to be hooked up. Even though we have them, if we use mid-states, they're still 3 years behind in installing generation for the cities here in Kansas. And there's probably 20 more still out there that they haven't installed that they're waiting on. So we can't say, hey, we want to be first in line. We have to wait in line like everybody else. So if we do buy one or more of these units, it's probably 3 years before they go online. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Next one is CD renewal, certificate of deposit renewal. Russ?
All right, so our CD has come up for renewal. We sent it out for bid to get it renewed for another 2 years. We had all three of the banks bid on it. Baldwin State Bank came in at 3.45%, and Kansas State Bank came in at 3.75%, and Mid-America Bank came in at 4.05%. So we're recommending approval for Mid-America Bank at 4.5% for 2 years.
4.05.
4.0, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That'd be really good.
Need a motion on that?
Yes. We'll,
All the other terms are the same as far as
yeah,
compounding.
it's all apples to apples and everything.
And how much money are we parking in that CD?
1 million.
Okay, thank you. You have a motion?
I move to approve the CD renewal as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is chip and seal bids. think are Rob away from
Okay,
that.
so we had the chip and seal opening bids the other day. Well, I'll let Rob come up here and speak on that.
No, you're fine.
I don't know if being last on the agenda is a good thing or a bad thing. I'll try.
Bad thing, bad.
I'll try to make it quick. So, for your consideration this evening, we have the street maintenance plan bid. I didn't say bids. We got one this year, so we have the bid for your consideration. This project was posted for 30 days. We received one bid from Vance Brothers Construction. That's okay. We've used Vance Brothers in the past. We've had good luck with them. Got a good working relationship with them, so totally fine with using Vance Brothers. I don't know why the others didn't bid it. I talked to Bettis in February to kind of get some pricing information, and he indicated at that time they were looking to probably get out of the chip seal business. I didn't know he meant 2026, but they did not bid on it, so. Anyway, there should be a map in your council packets that outlines the section of town that we're looking at doing this summer. Everything in blue is the base bid. Everything in red, which is Washington Street, is the ad alternate. The bids came in at $60,731 for the base bid and $30,400 for the ad alternate. Both the base and ad alternate streets will receive double lifts as we began doing a few years ago. Staff recommends approving the Vance Brothers base and ad alternate bid for the 2026 street maintenance project for a total of $91,131.80. And stand for any questions.
The companies that we're looking at to use are reputable, and we've used them before, and they're decent, and we know their works.
We have, Mayor. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
That was bid, how do they measure that? Like, cost per square foot or?
Yes,
Is that what it is?
it is.
Is that, it was 7 point something, I think, is what I saw?
That's for a double lift. Single, it'd be like $350. I think that's.
Is that
what they
comparable
quoted
to
me.
what we've had in past bids?
Yeah, that's about what we paid last year, actually.
Cool.
I'm guessing this fits with what we had budgeted this year.
I had $150,000 budgeted for street maintenance. We're anticipating, part of that comes from fuel sales tax, so we don't know till we collect it, but $150,000 is kind of what we've been budgeting for every year. Unfortunately, the ad alternate last year, which is a golf course parking lot, built late, so it didn't post until 2026, so we lost $15,000 off of it for that, so we're down to $135,000. So you'll see on the map, it's not a lot. We're not doing a lot this year. We need to be doing 3-4 times that amount. We're probably at least 2 cycles away from being able to start over on phase 1 again, which is just, it is what it is. We work with the money that the council allots us, and that's what we could do this year. That's what we could fit in. So that leaves us about $30,000 for crack sealing, hot mix, asphalt patching, and other things that may come up. So we tried to be a little bit conservative, and that is the next section of town we wanted to get done.
Thanks.
Very good.
Motion, we move on. Move on.
Yeah, we
Motion.
would approve it.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the bid from Vance Brothers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chip and seal bids passes. Going on to council committee reports, budget and finance. Scott?
Yep, we did meet, and let me get the notes up here. So we did meet, and quite a long agenda. The bullpen lease was a big part of it. We all had that conversation, and it will be ongoing. The second thing is we actually invited the Community Emergency Fund, our representative, in to discuss, what they're seeing and how they might fit into what we would like to do for, helping citizens. So, Peter, if you want to step in and kind of talk about what we were told.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it was a lot of great information. He told us, that they had a total of 2024. They had total disbursements of 25,815. And just so the community knows, and I'm not trying to throw a whole bunch of people at them, because right now they said their capacity is okay. with how many people that they help. But he did say that they have not been able to fulfill, like, they haven't been able to give out enough funds. Like whatever funds they have for the year obviously roll over into the next one, but they haven't hit capacity, and they help with things like utilities. They'll help people with their food, their rent, gas, stuff like that. So I really recommend that anybody in the community that needs financial help, reach out to those guys. They have I can't remember where he said that they were based out of, but there's a source at the library. Let me see. What's that? Call City Hall? Yeah, you can call City Hall, and for your utility help, they can put you in touch with the Community Emergency Fund people. And then I also was on a mission to try to find out, because we have so many different resources available to the community and people who need help, it's all financial based, but sometimes it's groceries, utilities. So it's not just handing out money, it's, help with specific things. We have a ton of resources here in town. I was hoping that somebody from that fund or from another one would step up and say they're going to spearhead kind of getting their own committee, not city-based committee. I think that the city needs to still stay neutral in that area and not necessarily commit, to spearheading that committee. But they said, we are fairly busy, and in their little wheelhouse of their silo of what they do, they still provide a wonderful service. But as of yet, I haven't found anybody in the community that wants to step up and kind of try to group together all these different financial support and just, any support you could think of, behavioral health or mental crisis, stuff like that. There's tons of community members and resources that we have. So just putting it out there. If anybody does want to spearhead that, I can also help facilitate, let you know what resources I've come up with. Lynn helped me by getting some of those resources put on the city website. So they're out there. If anybody wants to step up in the community and try to rally the groups together so that it's all in one spot, because even though we have a lot of resources on the city website, there's a lot to try to ingest there. And if somebody's in crisis, they're not necessarily, they're going to look at this list at 100 different resources they have available. And, some of them take a lot of documentation to fill out and get help. And if you're in crisis, sometimes looking at a daunting piece of paperwork that you don't even know is going to help you, that might be too much. And so having community resources available to even help people walk through the paperwork process on some of those, getting funding from some of these charitable organizations is a lot. So anyways, just putting it out there. I did not look at it yet today. Okay. Do you have the ability to say that in your mic, or do you want me to try to repeat it? Sorry, I don't play the telephone game very well.
The library has a community resource navigator from United Way who is at the library every Monday from 2 to 4, and that's literally what she does. That's her job. She helps people navigate the resources and fill out paperwork.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is that it?
A couple more. As you know or don't know, if you don't know, that we actually pass through the library mill levy as part of our mill levy package. It's just the way it works. They're not a city entity, but their funding goes through our funding package, our mill levy package. And apparently there was a bit of a snafu with the county on the amount that they expected. So Baker Tilly is working with the county and us to figure out what that is, what happened, and how we resolve it. So that's Baker Tilly presented the February financial review, and I think they got the dashboard for February. Should have that, or is it March? That would have been.
We should be getting March, like later this week.
Okay, so you got February, so the next one will be March. So, and hopefully they'll come next meeting and present what we look like on the dashboard, all the funds and projections for the year after first quarter. So that's always helpful to see if we're getting behind, or about where we thought we'd be, or we're getting ahead. We discussed a golf course adjacent parking lot lease. I think we talked about it at the council meeting as well. I think the intent was to go to the other stakeholders, Baldwin Golf Association, Baker, and USD 348, to see if they'd be willing to participate in funding that lease. I talked to BGA, and they were willing to step up to $1,000 to go toward continuing that lease, or I guess getting it renewed. I think Jay or somebody was talking to Baker and ESD 348, so we need to figure out if they're interested as well. Then I think we can make a decision if the city wants to participate at any level at all to continue that. So that's the update on that. And that was it. And the next meeting will be Friday, 9 a.m., second floor of City Hall.
Good. Thank you. Corey?
We did not meet. We meet the 27th, 4 o'clock Monday, second floor City Hall.
Thank you, sir. And Corey, I'm going to also pass off public safety to you.
When do we meet? Friday. Is it this Friday?
Jay King's usually the head of the committee, but he's sick, absent tonight, so Corey's.
Who has the calendar pulled up? It's the second Tuesday?
That's what it used to be, because they did it on Tuesday the same week I did it on Thursday.
Okay. We've been having them on Fridays. Or Thursdays lately. But maybe they just got moved. So let's call it tentatively Tuesday the 14th. 4 o'clock, second floor City Hall.
Thank you, Corey, especially since I put you on the spot. Thanks.
I completely forgot that Jay wasn't here.
Public Works, Julie.
We have not met, and our next meeting is actually on Thursday. And beyond that, the May meeting is on the 14th of May.
Good. Thank you. Strategic planning.
We did not meet, and nothing on the calendar.
Good, thank you. Julie, Lake Committee.
Yeah, we had a meeting before the council meeting tonight, and some of the members went to the Douglas County Commission meetings where they talk about all the grants and who's going to get money and who isn't. And unfortunately, they did not give the Lake Committee any money. They, I guess, mentioned that they wondered why this wasn't fixed in the first place when it was broken. And they also brought up that they weren't sure that if they gave us money that we wouldn't sell the city lake. And so anyway, moving on, they've been doing some work out at the lake. The committee has. They've been really cleaning up some of the trails and putting in some bridges. And the other thing is we've got 2 other grants that are in the works, and we should know about those later in the summer.
Good. Thank you. That finishes up the council committee reports. City Administrator, any comments?
No, none at this time.
Council?
So the by right housing bill has passed, so that I've talked to Russ about this a little bit and Stu, so I think we're kind of getting ahead of it, and Pat, we've talked about it as well. They're going to be pretty much forcing everyone to go to at least the 2018 codes, but we've already been kind of working on that, so once we get that ready, we'll bring it to council. House Bill 2745, which is the big budget bill that we're all watching. It does not have enough votes to override a veto. So if Governor Kelly does choose to veto it, then hopefully there won't magically be enough votes to override the veto. I've heard both that she is going to sign it. I've heard that she's not going to sign it. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see what she does.
And when do you think we might hear when that might be resolved? I mean, does she have a,
The bill is on her desk, so it could be resolved tonight, like right now. I don't know, but
okay. I
when
didn't know if there was like a deadline she had to go through and,
yeah, she does have to sign them at some point. If she fails to sign, I think some of them might eventually become law, but yeah, she does have to sign or veto them at some point.
okay, good, thank you. Amber, anything? All right. Council comments? The only comment I had is I appreciate everyone's work tonight, and I know it was a very kind of, again, just, it's a difficult situation with the bullpen and trying to resolve it and meet it to everybody's expectations. Don't know if it's possible or not, but I certainly appreciate everybody's input. Next Friday, I will be in Salina attending training by the Kansas League of Municipalities. I believe Russ is going to go. Counselor, are you going to be there?
No,
Okay.
no.
So we'll be taking care of that, and I just will give you this little added comment. I ran into Mayor Lauren, his first name is Lauren, who was a mayor back in the 90s. Do you know his last name, Julie?
You talking about Lauren Anderson, the sheriff?
No, I know Lauren Anderson. He's a mayor in Baldwin, said he was a mayor.
Oh, Lauren Latier.
Was it?
Lauren Latier.
Lauren LeClaire?
Latier.
Latier? And I, just for a little note, I asked him, I said, Mayor, do you have any suggestions for me, or what was it like when you were mayor? He goes, we didn't have any damn money. We had nothing. So you see, some things haven't changed. So he's a very nice man. I thought that was kind of interesting. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Good night, Connie, wherever you are. Did you catch that, Russ?